I'm live. Today, we're going to be talking about a very expensive mistake that I have made over the last few years. And I'm going to be sharing it with you because I think there's some hidden business lessons in it. It doesn't actually apply to business, it's actually related to dental mistakes. So I'm going to explain that in just a second. But there were so many golden nuggets that I wanted to share on the podcast to help you in business if you are making investments, taking risks, trying new things, and maybe you are experiencing frustration or you're experiencing, oh, you've made an expensive investment mistake, things like that. So, before we get into it, this is the Health Coach Nation podcast. I'm your host, Haley Rowe, marketing and sales coach and consultant. And I specialize in working with coaches and online service providers when it comes to booking clients, growing their business, getting out there locally or online. And the story I want to tell for you today is going to start probably about 2 to 4 years ago. I don't know the exact timeline. I'm going to do my best to estimate, but I noticed that I had these things called abfractions on my bottom molars, which basically means you've grinded away, or like you've exposed the dentin on the tooth, which is like the natural part of the tooth that's more susceptible to being sensitive and things like that, because you've grinded it away. And it was like at the bottom of my molar. So it wasn't at the top, it was at the bottom. And so I saw it one day when I was flossing, and I had this like weird freak out because it looks very scary. It looks like raw tooth, like it looks brown or yellow and not cute. So I had like this identity crisis, like, wow, this is really ugly. What is going on? And then I learned it was the raw dentin, which is, means your enamel wore away. And I told my dentist about it. And I have been going to my dentist for several years. Normally, they were great, and until they weren't, which we'll talk about. But anyway, I had built trust with them over several years. They always did a great job. Um, and they were like, yeah, that can be from a couple different sources. It could be from grinding, it could be from brushing too aggressively, it could be from just the framework of your mouth, and you putting a lot of pressure on your bite, and blah, blah, blah. Now, growing up, mind you, I had braces, I did the whole retainer thing, I did all the things. Okay. So they had told me at my dental office that the way my mouth was shaped, or the pressure I was putting on my lower teeth, was too much, and that I needed to widen my upper teeth and change something about the way my mouth looks or sits on my bottom teeth, so that I was no longer putting more pressure and wearing away the dentin even more. So now I'm going to tell you what other people told me that were professionals and orthodontists and things like that. I got other opinions. But at the time, I had trusted my dentist already. Their website said they specialized in TMJ. She had many different certifications and things like that. She said that on her website, she does orthodontic work. So I thought it was both dental and orthodontics office, right? Little did I know there's a rule in Illinois, or a law that in Illinois, that allows dentists to operate as orthodontists, but it doesn't let orthodontists operate as dentists. So the whole thing was confusing to me, but I had trust my dentist. They'd always done good work with me. They explained it to me in a way that I thought made sense. And so I said, okay. And then they made it sound super simple to fix. They were like, oh yeah, what we're gonna do is we're gonna give you this retainer thing that you're gonna wear, and it's going to widen the top and put less pressure on the bottom of your teeth, and yada, yada, yada. So I'm like, okay. They made it sound like it was maybe a short time frame, 6 months, maybe a year. And then naturally I wouldn't have to get it worse on the bottom of my mouth. And naturally I wouldn't have to drill into the dentin, because it was still in overall good condition, and I don't have to get it filled, and I just correct the root problem so that it doesn't get worse, right? Now, I said, okay, and I signed up and I did this thing, and it was very expensive retainer device. And it started to get worse, meaning I was at this time just trusting the process because they were acting like everything was going great and fine. So I'm telling you the story first so that then I can tell you the lessons after. And I may have to split this up into 2 episodes. So, anyways, as I was proceeding through this retainer situation, it was a device called the Bionator, which after more research, I learned that they pretty much only use it in Europe. It's very outdated. It is usually only effective in children. I'm an adult. Okay. So there's a lot of things wrong with this picture. But at the time, I was like, all right, whatever. I'm, outsourcing it to the expert. And I was noticing I was getting gaps in my teeth, and I was noticing my bite was feeling really weird. Like I could not bite together without like shaking. Like it was so uncomfortable. And I was like, is this normal? Like, and also I developed like a speech impediment, which I had never had in my entire life. And I was just, my gut feeling kept getting like, this seems very strange. But they were like, no, no, this is how it progresses. And then it moves all back together. But then the story started to get more elaborate of what they were telling me. So originally it was this short timeline. We're going to get this done, yada, yada. Then it started to turn into, oh no, now it's going to take 2 years or more. And after all of this, we're going to have to now get you an Invisalign because your teeth have moved. And so it's becoming this elaborate process. Okay. And meanwhile, in this process, I get engaged. And that was about, I was pretty well into this journey, right? So I'd already moved a lot of my teeth and they were pretty messed up at that point. But I kept being told, no, this is the timeline. This is going the way it has to move weirdly before it can move back together, blah, blah, blah. Like just strange information. Okay. So I'm starting to get a little doubtful. And now I have a timeline because now I'm like, okay, I'm getting married. I can't have this weird situation going on. So now I'm getting more and more concerned. And I finally, which is way too late, get other opinions from other orthodontists, professionals. I also ended up seeing some periodontists too because I have gum recession anyways and I needed to do that. But a lot of them recommended some good orthodontists to me and things like that. After talking to probably 7 professionals, there was also a myofunctional therapist in there because after all of this work done I had on my teeth, I had to start doing tongue therapy because my tongue thrust got worse and the speech thing got worse. And so now, on top of the payments I was paying the dentist to do this process that was making everything worse, I had to now also pay this therapist, which is not covered by my insurance. I don't even have dental insurance because I'm self-employed. But point is, had to start doing that too. And every professional, and by the way, the myofunctional person was referred to me by the dentist. And even the myofunctional therapist said, oh yeah, I've had people come from that dentist office and they always it's not good. Like it seems like they're doing something strange over there. 7 people told me pretty much that were professionals. This is a terrible plan. I don't know why they were doing this. You've done some severe damage. And they threw in, oh, you might need to also get jaw surgery, which is like 40K. Okay, thankfully, knock on wood, we're beyond that. But at the time, I was freaking out, right? So this is probably last summer. I'm freaking out hearing all of this. And now I'm getting new proposal plans from all these new orthodontists. And they're saying it's going to take 2 years to fix the 2 years of what I damaged, right? So then I'm like, okay, I got to abort this situation with this dentist. I go back in, I ask more educated questions, and she is telling me things like, oh, actually, you never know how long this timeline is going to take. It could take 8 years. I had a patient, blah, blah, blah. And now she's just totally changing the story, the expectations, the timeline. Nothing makes sense. Nothing connects. And this is not rooted in science versus these orthodontists gave me a clear proposal, a clear plan, a clear why for what they were doing. This dentist, the story kept changing. So at that point, I decided to abort and move on to a different orthodontist. And this is where all the lessons started coming in. And that's what I want to share with you. And now I have braces, by the way. Here they are. And rubber bands because I'm pulling my teeth around and trying to get this deadline before my wedding. And it's been going great. But was this more traumatic on my teeth? Yes. Did it cause more problems than it ever needed to cause? Yes. Did I probably do more damage to my teeth with all the orthodontic work and grind and all that from that? Yes. And now I'm just going to be back at my baseline, and then I'm going to have to get gum recession uh, grafting and all the things. So it's like the journey never ends. But here is one lesson I want to share, and I'm going to start going through the lessons now that you kind of know the story. First of all, whenever in your business or life you have a situation like this that's frustrating, that's annoying, but it's not something like life or death. It's just either money out of your pocket, which you can always make back, or something where, your health is not in danger. It really just puts things in perspective. Okay. Like if this was my big problem the last 2 years, I have an amazing life. And I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, especially, and I'm going to apply this to business, we don't realize how freaking lucky we are and how easy we have it. So, for example, you may be frustrated that your timeline's not moving as quickly as you'd like, just like I was with my teeth situation, but you have so many things easy. For example, you probably don't, if you have an online business, you probably don't have to drive to work every day. If you have an online business, you probably can work from anywhere. If you have an online business, you probably have a flexible schedule. These are all things that we need to put in perspective. You have it really good. So it made me grateful. It made me realize I have so much to be grateful for if this is like my annoyance situation when there are so many other more serious things in the world and serious things that other people are dealing with. And it's not to say that you should discredit pain in your life or act like it's not there, but it is to say always look for the bright side, always look for the silver lining, and always look at how much smarter you're going to come out after taking a risk and learning a big lesson from it. Now, I will never do any dental or medical or anything really without getting more than one opinion from a professional and getting different perspectives and poking holes in their plan and saying, if this happens, then what? If this happens, then what? So, not necessarily in a sense of I'm not going to trust anyone, but I am going to get more than one opinion. Okay. So putting things in perspective is number one, lesson number one. Lesson number two is when you have something that's bothering you, whether it's in your business or in your personal life, you cannot let it leak into the other areas of your life. So what I would find myself doing with this whole thing is I would sometimes let it drain my energy so much that my workout sucked or that I was distracted when I was talking to someone because I was thinking about this or things like that. So I had to learn how to compartmentalize, which I think is really important in business. You are going to have things in the back end you need to fix. You're going to have people who are unhappy with you online and people who love you. And you have to learn how to, when you're working with whatever's in front of you, to focus on that and stay hyper focused on that compared to letting one bad thing, one bad egg ruin all of the amazing eggs. Okay. So for me, I had so much great things going on, and I just had to learn and remember to compartmentalize this and not let it drag into my other things, because then who's suffering? It's not the, dentist's office, it's me. So why would I make myself suffer more than I need to and let it impact other areas of my life when I could just compartmentalize and look at that isolated issue as the one thing that is the problem I'm trying to solve and let it stay in its own little section compartment and not leak into other things I'm working on. The other thing that I wanted to share with you is if you're working with someone ever in your business, or in general, who makes you feel dumb for asking certain questions, move on. Get a new service provider. Because one of the things that this dentist did was they kept, when explaining things, they kept being like, well, it's very complex. It's very hard for regular people to understand. And here's how it works. And she gave me an analogy like, oh, imagine building your house on an unsolid foundation, and that's what you have. And so we're trying to move the bone and blah, blah, blah. And other orthodontists were like, no, I mean, yes, to a degree that matters, but like they told me the truth. Okay. So here was the thing that I had to learn is that don't take that. Say, okay, I know that I'm not, an orthodontist or a dentist, but I need you to dumb this down and I need you to not act like I'm dumb for asking the questions, and don't accept somebody acting like you have a dumb question or you're stupid for asking that question. Really just the gaslighting component. If you notice that anywhere, immediately move on. And the other thing that is really key is to have a good support crew around you, because during this process, there were so many times where I would vent to my support crew. And I think it's really important in business and in personal life to have ways to channel your energy in an effective way instead of letting things sit and holding so much pressure, holding so much stress inside. I think it's very important to like express it or get it out of your body or go move or go talk to someone or whatever it may be. And one thing that I did that was really effective for me about letting all this go is I wrote a letter, um, just expressing like, here's what happened, here's where I'm at, here's now the extended costs that I'm dealing with because of this one issue that wasn't even required, which by the way, the other orthodontist told me all I would have needed for the abfractions at the beginning was a bite guard when I went to sleep. That was it. I would need like a $20 bite guard or $100 bite guard. I don't even know how much they are, but that would have been the only thing I needed. And instead we went down this very expensive rabbit hole, and the whole thing altogether of, getting this retainer bionator thing and doing the appointments and then getting it all fixed with braces. And then I had with the braces, I had to get something called TADs, which are like screws in your mouth, which are extremely terrifying. And they try to pull up your molars and they kept falling out. So I didn't end up even getting to use them. I had to get them, I kept trying the little engine that could, I kept getting them back put into my mouth, but then they would fall out. So that didn't end up working, but it was going to accelerate the timeline way faster. And it did. I got like maybe 2 weeks wear out of it. I was supposed to get several months wear out of it, but I paid for that too. And that didn't work out and it kept falling out. I wasn't a good candidate apparently. And so with all of that, this is probably a whole process. It was like 27K, maybe more, but that's a rough estimate that I did when I looked back at all the expenses. So that's pretty painful mistake, right? Not crazy, meaning you can recover from that, but it is something where you are not happy that that happened, right? So I had this, letter where I said, here's what happened, here's what I'm dealing with, here's what the 7 other opinions that I got said, and I requested a refund. I didn't get it, but requested it. And I felt so much better though after writing that, because it was like closure for me. It was like, okay, here is what is going on. And I don't want to express that I was not responsible for this, because I don't want you to listen to this and think, oh, if something bad happens to you, you should blame it on the other person and you should ask for a refund and blah, blah, blah. I do not think that at all. I do think you should advocate for your own care. I think you should speak up to get the support you need. I think that you should take full responsibility for everything that happens to you. So for me, I qualify this as a very valuable lesson. I don't blame them. I don't like that. I believe my conception is that they saw an opportunity and took advantage of me, but I'm not going to play the victim. I'm going to take responsibility. I'm going to fix the problem, and I'm going to learn from this and extract as much value from it as I possibly can. So writing that letter allowed me to, number one, have closure, but then what I was able to do after all of this is extract so many lessons and things I wanted to share. And the other thing that I wanted to share is when you have something going on in your life and you're a coach, okay, or you're a content creator of some kind and you are sharing value online and stories online, turn it into very helpful content, turn it into an opportunity. And the key thing with that, though, is to not talk about it when it's, as Brene Brown says, don't talk about it until it's a scar, not an open wound. Okay. So I am making this video now, almost being done with my braces and having time to recover from this and process it and pull the lessons out of it and make peace with it. But I wasn't going to document this in the middle of it when it was an open scar and I was or open scab, and I was super vulnerable about it and super embarrassed about it and feeling shame and all the things. I think with everything that's going on in your life, you can really use this for teaching moments for your clients. Turn it into something you can use as content. The other lesson that I learned from this was the power of resourcefulness. I don't know why I wasn't being more resourceful upfront. It was probably because the trust had already been built and I trusted this person. But now going forward, I realized I could have been so much more resourceful to get the information I needed. I used ChatGPT a couple times to ask some detailed questions about the device that I got. Now I know those kinds of things can be very wrong. But then I got other professional opinions. I booked all the appointments. I made the time for this. So I think it's really important if something's important to you and you want to solve something and you want to figure something out, ask, how can I be more resourceful? What do I have available to me? Who can I ask? And really go into empowerment mode instead of like the catastrophizing, which is what our brains like to do. Our brains like to just sit in the problem and poor me, and this is so annoying. And in business, especially, we need to always be in solutions mode and resourcefulness mode. And the other thing is, it's really important to ask good questions. Whenever you're going through a frustrating thing or a mistake, I have a couple prompts whenever I do something where I feel like it didn't go the way I wanted or it was a costly mistake. There are questions that I use to get return on investment from that, no matter what. And so there are questions like, how can I turn this mistake into one of the most profitable things I've ever done, or one of the most profitable lessons I've ever learned? Or how can I, what from this do I want to teach my clients? Or just any questions or prompts that are more positive, open-ended questions instead of negative questions that keep you stuck. And because we're coaches, we should be using everything in our life that doesn't go the way we want as ways to coach ourselves and become better coaches. Because our clients, when we work with them, they're going to be going through hardships. They're going to have obstacles. They're not going to stick to their plan. They're going to have life things that come up that feel like they derail them. And so in order to be a powerful coach, the more bigger life you're living, the more risks you're taking, the more you actually are making failures, the more you can actually speak to that for your clients and help them through that and understand what they're going through. And nobody wants a coach who's like perfect and does everything right and can't relate at all to when obstacles come up, right? So using everything as a coaching opportunity. And then the other lesson I learned from this is to trust yourself. I had a gut feeling like things are really weird. And I started to have like questioning about how they were doing things when they were doing my adjustments on my Bionator and all of that. And I should have listened to my gut feeling earlier. Now, there are times when I think our gut feeling is just fear and we need to actually move beyond it and not always trust our gut. Like, so if your gut's like, oh, I don't feel like going live because it could be scary and people might not like it, that's not like a gut feeling that you want to trust and lean into. That's just your limitations limiting you, telling you to stay small. But there's a time when your gut feeling is right about things, and it's kind of about figuring out when should you trust it and when should you not. And so in this case, I should have trusted it. But then there's other times when your brain is going to tell you things just because it wants to keep you small and protected and safe. And that's where you have to call BS and actually move forward despite the fear, despite the risk or whatever it may be. So it's important to kind of know the difference. And the other thing is use any feelings that come up along your business journey or when you make a mistake. If it's frustration, if it's anger, if it's whatever it may be, channel it in a more positive way. So rather than um as I told you, like stewing in it, go use it for good. Oh my God, I'm going to make the best content from this. Or I'm going to, you know, channel this into my workout or whatever it may be. And don't let it sit in your body. I think like it's more important than I ever realized to process feelings and have effective ways to do that as opposed to just thought work. So one of the things that I teach my clients is a lot of like cognitive behavioral change, which is a lot having to do with thoughts and feelings and how that drives your actions and what you end up doing or not doing. But we also have to pay attention to somatics. And I started learning about that more from some of the guests on my podcast and people who I've talked to in the industry. And it's all about processing feelings, not just also, doing thought work. You need both. So that was, learning ways that I could process through emotions for me personally was helpful as opposed to just doing the thought work. And the other thing that I wanted to share is kind of like what happened after. So when I got to working with the orthodontist, who is like the angel in this story, the savior, the hero, if we're doing the hero's journey brand story, this is the part where the hero swoops in. And I heard from 3 or 4 different orthodontists, got different quotes from them about how I was going to correct all these issues. And I was tempted to go to so the person who I ended up going to was a referral from like 3 people. So I was like, oh my gosh, this must be the right person. But that person had a wait list and that person was not available right away. And I wanted to move things forward as quickly as possible because of my wedding and obviously just because I was uncomfortable with just functionally biting things was hard, and B, aesthetically, right? So I was looking at different options and I was really tempted to go with one who I really liked. They were really nice. They really shared a good plan, what it seemed. They had good reviews. I looked at their reviews. And I was very tempted to just move forward with that one because I could have gotten started sooner. But again, I wanted to learn from this. And I'm like, no, go to someone who you got several referrals from and who you know is going to do it right. And I'm so glad I did that because when I finally had the consultation with the last orthodontist, he told me the one orthodontist told me you could do braces or Invisalign. The last guy I talked to was like, no, you can only do braces. This is like serious. So I'm so glad I did that because he accelerated the timeline by a lot. And number 2, if I would have done the Invisalign, it probably wouldn't have worked. It probably wouldn't have done exactly what we needed it to do. So glad I waited. Patience for the right service provider is important. That was a lesson that I learned. And I also learned from this orthodontist just how well he runs his business. So he pays attention to the little details, every little detail. When I went in for my first appointment, my name was on a board, like, welcome to our new people. They give you like a whole little kit after you get your braces. They let me plan everything ahead. He included clear braces. He felt bad for me. So he gave me up level instead of metal braces. He gave me clear braces on the bottom as like an up level that he didn't charge me for, like exceptional customer service. I got the clear on the top, but he added in the bottom because originally most people weren't going to see it, but he did it anyways. And he advised me how to reach out to my old dentist to highlight what went wrong, what suggested how I ask for the refund, all of that, even though they didn't do that, but whatever. So the whole journey, he was like the savior. And he really, like, his team, his staff, incredibly nice, the environment, just exceptional customer service. Whenever I had questions, they called me back right away, or they answered their phone right away. They never made me feel dumb for any of my questions. He's asking me he accelerated, he over delivered. Our timeline was originally way longer. He's made it way shorter. So that was like kind of night and day of business owners. Like, one would act like I'm really annoying asking questions. I'm too dumb to understand it. They're operating out of scope. The other one, operating within scope, under promise, over delivered, team and staff amazing, like every step of the way, very clear about the process, no guesswork in what I'm getting, all the things. So the next lesson that I learned is surrendering. And I think it's just really important to respond with what you can do about it. But even when you've done everything you can do, at some point, you also just have to be like, this is where we're at. This is the timeline. It is what it is, and let it go. And I think in business, it's really hard because when you're an entrepreneur, there's no certainty about the timeline. You can do a lot of things to improve the likelihood that you're going to get clients, that you're going to get sales, that you're going to set up your business for success, all of the goals that you have. But at the end of the day, there's no crystal ball that will say your exact timeline, exactly how many people are going to sign up for your program, all of the things. There's definitely data driven decisions you can make. Like, you can look at, how many people do normally convert? How many people would I need to get in this funnel to, if I have my average conversion rate, to get this results? There's a lot you can do, but we have to embrace uncertainty and surrender to it and be okay with the timeline. And one thing you can do to do that is to stop yourself when you're giving yourself really painful thoughts. So one of the things I kept resisting or thinking through this whole journey was, this shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have gone this way, because none of this I wouldn't have to be doing all this corrective work. I should have just got a bite guard. Like, I would have saved myself $27,000, 4 years of teeth work, maybe not have needed to get the gum grafting so soon because of the, extra pressure on it and all, blah, blah, blah. So the whole thing, I was like, oh my gosh, this shouldn't have happened. But if you have ever read Byron Katie's work and you believe in, that the kind of personal development work that I do, she always talks about how it always should have happened this way. Why? Because it happened that way. So for whatever reason, this happened for a reason, and realizing that it's here to teach you something. And it's here to help you get more comfortable with being uncomfortable and feeling uncomfortable emotions. And I also think it was, for me, for a couple reasons. Number one, I can more than definitely understand now my clients when they say, I'm scared of going live, or I'm embarrassed about how I look on camera. I mean, I've had skin problems like acne and all of that. But I also, now truly get it, because I'm like, oh, I have like rubber bands in my mouth and I have these ugly braces and I'm like an adult with braces, and I no offense, but it's like, that's not what you're used to seeing, right? So I get that. And now I can connect with them on a deeper level on that. And the other thing is, I've developed a lot more discipline and better habits with certain things, because there were times where I had to really figure out new ways of like living and be flexible. So it taught me new ways to like be flexible on the fly. So for example, when I get these screws in my mouth, I wasn't able to eat normal things for like weeks. And I had to learn, and also my bite was off. So it just all was really weird. Chewing was weird. And so I had to learn how to still include, like, you had to learn new things. Like, oh, how do I still get vegetables and fiber and protein in when I can't chew anything? And so I just like learned new ways of doing things. And I think it's good to get yourself in situations where you are forced to have to figure something out on the fly or find a new way to do something or open up to new, possibilities, things like that. Now, not saying go purposely make a mistake and whatever, but I am saying try to look for things in your life, things where you're like, oh, that's not possible, or you limit yourself, and be like, what if it was? How would I find a workaround for this? How could I be flexible with this? And the other thing is, um, oh, never mind. That's a repeat. So I already mentioned that. So, anyways, this is my first. I have more on the topic, but I think I'm going to stop here. There may or may not be a part two if I can find my other journal things that I wrote down, but these were the ones I had on my phone. And if you have something that you've turned into a victory that most people would see and originally think is a mistake or something you did wrong, I would love to know it. Feel free to share in the comments if you're watching live, or feel free to DM me on Instagram at Haley_Rowe. And if you want more mindset support in addition to the strategy support, one of the things that I have is my free Overwhelm cheat sheet and class. And I believe I'll have to put the link in the show notes because I don't know it off the top of my head. But if you go to haleyrowe.com, you should be able to find it in one of the podcast show notes. And if you want it, you can always just reach out to me. So thank you for checking it out, this video, and I will talk to you guys soon.